Welcome to the special meeting of the Scottsdale Transportation Commission. It's the first of several special meetings to hear about the status of the updates to the Transportation Action Plan.
I'll be doing the first part to talk about proposed changes to our street classification maps. The list of project or streets on this slide is very similar to what was proposed or submitted for early concepts at your March meeting. Proposing looking at changing Hayden Road on the southern end of town from McKellips up to Indian School Road from a major arterial, which is 6 travel lanes, to in the future potentially converting to a minor arterial with 4 lanes. We'll go into a little bit more detail on some of these changes so that it's clear where we're looking at making modifications. This is Hayden Road, the segment from McKellips Road on the south to Indian School Road on the north. Currently 6 travel lanes. For the most part of it doesn't have a center or a center median, which is typical for a minor or major arterial. There are portions that do, others that don't. This is a section that's north of Thomas Road where there is no raised median. And we have several reasons that we believe that this is a concept worth pursuing. If you go into that corridor currently, there is no room for bike lanes on the street. The existing sidewalks are primarily immediately back of curb. You can see a pedestrian over on the left side of the screen. There's transit service, so that does generate more pedestrian activity, but those existing sidewalks are typically no more than 6 feet wide and are immediately back of curb. On a typical arterial cross section that we would build over the last 20 years or so, we would have an 8-foot wide sidewalk, which can also serve as a side path for bicycles. Shows again another reason why we have a good comfort level in the idea that Hayden Road could function well as with 4 travel lanes, obviously with sufficient turning movements at your major intersections. But you can see ever since the Loop 101 Pima Freeway opened in the late 90s, travel volumes on this corridor have been pretty flat. And we did also at the far right-hand corner, or edge of the graph, give the current 2040 forecast from Maricopa Association of Governments MAG for this corridor. And those forecasts also show relatively flat travel demand in the corridor. Staff believes that 4 travel lanes would be sufficient for this corridor, again, with sufficient capacity at your intersections.
So if you could comment on that, the reduction of the traffic and the reason for cutting out some of the lanes on Hayden, I would appreciate it.
Certainly, Councilman Durham, Mayor Tagan, members of council. The southern 3 miles of Hayden Road from McKellips to Indian School Road is the only part of the Hayden Road corridor that at this point that we are looking at the potential of changing the classification from minor arterial 6-lane roadway from major arterial, to minor arterial 4-lane roadway. And if we did make a change in the number of travel lanes that we would move curbs, we would basically have some sort of a configuration. It could be a bike lane with a buffer. It could be a bike and bus lane potentially, because we do have regular transit service on that corridor. I also looked at what the travel volumes have been over the last several years in most recent counts, and looked at what that capacity would be at 4 lanes and compared that to a typical the volumes versus typical 4-lane capacity, and it still is only about 3/4 at 4 lanes of what we would expect as transportation planners and traffic engineers that a 4-lane roadway could manage. And when you add in turn bays in particular, that makes it even more efficient for what you can pass through in those corridors.